Chapter 21. On her way home that evening, Terry stopped by a bookstore and purchased a couple of reference books on the use of hieroglyphics, not only in ancient Egypt, but also other cultures which used them. The cultures discussed in the books ranged from Egypt to the Maya of Central America to cultures in southern China and Tibet. When comparing glyphs on the artifact to ones found in the books, nothing came remotely close. Nothing whatsoever, which was pretty frustrating. Eventually, she decided to see if there was something in the computer systems at work about the origin of this artifact and where the glyphs came from. The next morning, Terry made her way to her office, sat down at her computer, and logged in to the private museum network. She did a search on all known hieroglyphics and came up empty. She then tried a last-ditch effort to find something by searching for what was on the label in the drawer where the artifact was found. Her search for Field Expedition number 5894 was futile. She knew it was a long shot, since the whole reason she was given the task of cataloging the archive was because none of that inventory was recorded on the computer, but she thought it deserved a try. Sitting back in her chair, she now had to figure out, without any computer assistance, what the story was with this artifact. Thinking it over, she realized that, in her haste to take images of the artifact, she had ignored the possibility of documentation in the file cabinets at the end of the shelving units. Descending back into the archive, she made her way to the file cabinets where the beeper was. Opening the drawers, which were in desperate need of oil, she saw that much of what was in these cabinets wasn't in any semblance of order. So finding information on the beeper in this mess was going to take some time. She knew she needed to approach the archival project systematically, relegating this beeper to more of a recreational oddity and not giving it any more attention than other items in the archive. Terry's approach could take two directions: an overall understanding of what was in the archive, or an examination and documentation of the history and relevancy of each item. Her job wasn't to understand any specific item, but to simply catalog what was present in the archive, so future researchers would know what was there. That way, they could target exactly what they were looking for and where in the archive it was located. She had an ace up her sleeve, though. Her friend, Lynn, was an Egyptologist and would be more likely to know where the beeper came from. The balance of the day was spent familiarizing herself with the entire floor plan of the archive. She decided to simply follow the walls all around, figuring eventually she would end up back where she started. Thinking this would be a good way to learn the scope of the task before her, Terry started on her trek and was rewarded early on with a few things about the archive room she didn't know before. As she had earlier suspected, there was a freight elevator in the far left corner, making it possible to bring things big and small in and out of the archive. It would be a fun project to see where it came up from below to the ground level. It was obvious this wasn't the same freight elevator in constant use by the museum, since this one was situated at the archive level and had the same layer of dust so commonplace to Terry at this point. When she had gone to the same place on the ground floor where the freight elevator was located, there simply was nothing to be found. After talking with some guys from maintenance, they all went down to the archive, got in the elevator, and hit up. With a considerable number of creaks and groans, the mechanisms engaged, and the apparatus moved its way upward. Eventually the car stopped, and they were greeted with what appeared to be the backside of a wall, complete with wood studs and drywall on the other side. It was quite comical when the senior maintenance technician used his hammer to break through the drywall right next to an extremely startled female office worker. Apparently this area was an original shipping and receiving depot, which was repurposed back in the 50s. Nobody in modern times had any idea the freight elevator was there, but it made sense since this particular area was just off the main garage at the rear of the museum. The sight of a gang of men emerging from the wall, and the shrieks coming from the secretarial pool were amusing fodder for conversations around the water cooler for quite some time. Going home each night these days, Terry was very glad to make her way to the shower. She loved her work, but it sure was dirty. Standing in the shower, allowing the water to wash away the grime of the day, was almost a treat in and of itself. Occasionally she would pour a glass of wine and spoil herself with a bath instead of a shower. This day was one of those days. Getting out of the tub and drying herself off, she wrapped the oversized towel around her tall frame and another around her long red hair. Emerging from the back bathroom, she sat for a while on the couch, turned on the TV to whatever channel she had been watching last, and relaxed. She contemplated what to do for dinner, then decided that was a decision for later. Right now, being off her feet was something that sounded better than food. The TV was on the Home Shopping Network, and this evening highlighted beautiful pendants featuring tanzanite stones arranged in various ways, some with diamonds, some without. They were all beautiful, but Terry thought how she wasn't really a pendant kind of girl. So she reached for the remote to find something else to watch. Just as she was about to hit the channel button, the piece they were featuring at that moment caught her attention. They had just turned the piece over so the back could be seen. Terry focused on the loop at the top of the pendant. Through that loop was a chain, like any typical pendant. The reason this caught her attention was she had seen something like this recently. She looked down on her messy coffee table and moved around some papers. Looking for the golden beeper pictures she brought home the previous evening. Finding them, she looked at one end of the beeper and, sure enough, there was a loop there just like the one on the television screen. I'll be darned. That thing's a pendant. She wondered why she hadn't made the connection when she had been looking at the artifact in person or in the photos. Holding the pictures in her hand, she looked to the side and got a smile on her face. Laying down the photos and getting up from her seat on the couch, she went to her bedroom, to the jewelry stand on top of her dresser. Hanging there was a gold chain she wore on special occasions. I'm going to take selfies with this chain, she thought to herself, and show them to Lynn tomorrow when I see her. Little did she know the odyssey in store for her. Hey, fellow Galimarians, this is Dan Adrian, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to my book. If you can, please click like down below because it really helps me bring these videos to you and lets me know what you like. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll get notified when I release more chapters. If you have any questions about this or any other of my books, or if you want to know more about what it takes to write a novel like this one, please make sure you leave your question in the comments below. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.